The yellow school bus hissed to a stop in front of Lincoln High, its brakes groaning as the doors creaked open. Students poured out a chaotic swarm of laughter shoves and chatter their cliques already carved into the social landscape of the Brooklyn school. No one noticed the girl stepping off last, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her face a mask of quiet resolve. Amara Jackson adjusted the strap of her bag, her dark eyes scanning the towering brick building ahead. It wasn't much different from her old school in Detroit. Same crowded hallways, same buzzing energy, same unspoken rules of survival. Keep your head down. Don't make waves. Stay invisible. That had been her strategy at every school before this one, and she planned to stick to it. She wasn't here to make friends or leave a mark. She was here to finish her senior year, grab her diploma, and get out. But Amara knew better than most that plans rarely survived first contact with reality. As she stepped through the double doors, the weight of curious stares settled on her. Whispers trailed in her wake, soft but sharp, like the rustle of leaves before a storm. She knew how this worked. A new face always drew attention, but it was different when you were a black girl in a school where most faces were white. They weren't just looking, they were judging. Was she loud? Was she trouble? Was she one of those girls? Amara ignored them, her gaze fixed ahead as she wove through the hallway searching for her locker. Her sneakers squeaked faintly against the polished floor, the sound swallowed by the cacophony of slamming lockers and shouted greetings. That was when she saw them. Lauren Mitchell, the name already floating around her on the bus, spoken in hushed tones of awe or caution. The tall blonde stood at the center of a small crowd, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. She wasn't just popular. She was a force, the kind of girl who could make or break you with a single word. Flanking her were Emily and Sophia, her ever-present shadows, their laughter a practiced echo of Lauren's. But it was the two boys with them that caught Amara's attention. Ethan Mitchell, Lauren's older brother, a senior, and the star quarterback, broad-shouldered with a grin that screamed untouchable. Next to him was Caleb Ruiz-Lean, and quick his easy smirk betraying a love for stirring trouble just to see what would happen. Amara knew their type. She'd met them before in different schools, with different names. She had no intention of getting tangled up with any of them. She turned to her locker, twisting the combination lock with steady fingers. But even as she kept her head down, she felt Lauren's gaze lingering, calculating like a predator sizing up prey. The first class of the day was history, and Amara slipped into a seat near the back, hoping to blend into the background. The teacher, Ms. Harper, a woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, was discussing the civil rights movement. Amara listened quietly, her notebook open but untouched. She didn't need to take notes. She'd read the textbook cover to cover back in Detroit. When Ms. Harper posed a question about the Montgomery bus boycott, the room fell silent, students avoiding her gaze. Anyone, Ms. Harper's voice cut through the quiet. Come on, you've all read the chapter. Amara felt the urge to stay silent, to keep her head down as always. But something in Ms. Harper's tone, a mix of challenge and expectation, pulled the words out of her. It wasn't just about the buses. She said, her voice steady but soft. It was about dignity. Rosa Parks wasn't the first to resist, but her arrest lit a spark because the community was ready to fight back together. The room turned to look at her. Ms. Harper's eyes lit up. Exactly, Amara. That's an excellent point. The boycott was a collective act of courage, built on years of quiet resistance. She smiled, a rare thing, and moved on. Amara sank back in her seat, her heart thudding. She hadn't meant to draw attention. Across the room, Lauren's eyes narrowed, her pen tapping against her desk. She was used to being the one who shone in class, the one teachers praised. Who was this new girl stepping into her spotlight? By lunch, the whispers had grown louder. Amara found an empty table in the corner of the cafeteria, her tray of lukewarm pizza and apple juice untouched as she scanned her surroundings. The room buzzed with conversation cliques, staking out their territory. She kept her head down, eating in silence, but the air shifted when Lauren's voice cut through the noise. "Well, look at this," Lauren said, her tone smooth and mocking as she approached Amara's table, Emily and Sophia trailing behind. "The new girl thinks she's too good to talk to anyone." Amara didn't look up calmly, sipping her juice. Lauren's smile tightened. She wasn't used to being ignored. "What, are you shy?" Emily chimed in, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Or just stuck up," Sophia added, smirking. The cafeteria was watching now, the hum of conversation fading as heads turned. Amara kept eating, giving them nothing. Caleb sauntered over, leaning against a nearby table. "Maybe she doesn't speak English," he said. His grin taunting. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Ethan, looming behind him, crossed his arms. "Or maybe she's just slow," he drawled, his voice low and mocking. More laughter. Lauren watched Amara closely, waiting for a crack, a blush, a flinch, anything to prove she was in control. When none came, she reached out and flicked Amara's juice cup, sending it tumbling across the tray. Orange liquid spilled everywhere, soaking her food. The cafeteria went silent for a heartbeat. Amara exhaled slowly. She set her fork down, wiped her hands with a napkin, and stood. Without a glance at Lauren or her crew, she picked up her tray, walked to the trash, and dumped it. The laughter started again, but it was thinner now, laced with unease. As Amara walked away, she met Lauren's eyes for a split second. There was no anger in her gaze, no fear, just a quiet, dangerous calm. Lauren's smirk faltered, and for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of doubt. That night, Amara sat at the kitchen table in her small Brooklyn apartment, staring at a plate of untouched spaghetti. Her father, Marcus Jackson, stood at the counter pouring coffee, his sharp eyes flicking toward her. He was a big man, his hands scarred from years in the ring, his presence steady but commanding. He didn't need to ask what was wrong. He'd seen that look before, the quiet tension of someone holding something back. "All right," he said, setting his mug down and leaning against the counter, arms crossed. "Spill it." Amara's fingers curled into fists. She could still see the juice spilling across her tray, hear the laughter, feel Lauren's smug gaze. "I don't want to fight," she said, finally, her voice low. Marcus studied her for a long moment. "But you're thinking about it." She looked up, her eyes fierce but conflicted. "I don't want to fight, Dad, but I don't want to be that girl either, the one who just takes it, the one they think they can break. I walked away today, and it made things worse." Marcus took a slow sip of coffee, choosing his words carefully. "You walked away because you didn't want to hurt them." She stiffened, and he held her gaze. "I trained you to defend yourself, Amara, not to be a weapon. But I also taught you to know when people like that won't stop until you make them." Amara swallowed the weight of his words, settling over her. She'd grown up in his gym, surrounded by fighters who lived by discipline and control. Marcus had been a professional boxer before retiring to train others, and he'd started teaching Amara when she was 6. Footwork, timing, reading an opponent's moves, it was in her blood. But that power came with a cost. 2 years ago in Detroit, she'd lost control. A boy had pushed her too far, and she'd put him in the hospital with a broken jaw. The fallout had been brutal, a suspension, a move to a new city, a promise to herself that she'd never let that side of her out again. "If I fight back, it won't stop there," she murmured. "It never does." Marcus nodded. "True. But walking away doesn't always stop it either. If they think you're weak, they'll keep coming until they break you." He set his mug down and pulled out a chair, sitting across from her. "You don't start fights, Amara, but you finish them. If they leave you no choice, you make sure they never try again." She held his gaze, her chest loosening slightly. "And if I lose control again, you won't," he said, his voice firm. "I know you. You're not some kid swinging wild. You think. You calculate. If you have to fight, don't do it to prove a point. Do it to end it." Amara let his words sink in, feeling them anchor her. She wasn't looking for a fight, but deep down she knew one was coming. Across town, Lauren Mitchell couldn't sleep. She lay in her pristine bedroom, staring at the ceiling, replaying the cafeteria scene. Amara hadn't flinched, hadn't reacted, just walked away with that cold, steady look in her eyes. It wasn't right. It wasn't normal. Lauren clenched her fists, her manicured nails digging into her palms. She'd spent years building her empire at Lincoln High, ruling through fear and admiration. No one challenged her. No one dared. But Amara was different, and Lauren hated it. She thought back to dinner, her mother's voice sharp and demanding. "You have to be the best, Lauren. Ethan's already got colleges scouting him. Don't let him outshine you." The pressure was suffocating, a constant reminder that she had to stay on top. Always perfect, always in control. Amara's quiet confidence in class, her effortless answer to Ms. Harper's question, it had stung more than Lauren wanted to admit. She couldn't let some transfer student, some nobody, threaten her throne. Tomorrow she'd make sure Amara knew her place. The next day the pressure intensified. Amara felt it the moment she stepped off the bus. The stares were sharper now, the whispers bolder. She was no longer just the new kid. She was a challenge. In the hallway, someone nudged her shoulder, muttering, "Think she's one of those tough girls from Detroit." She ignored it, heading to her locker, but the air was thick with anticipation. In gym class, the harassment escalated. Emily and Sophia made a point of accidentally bumping into her during drills, their elbows sharp, their giggles mocking. Amara didn't react, her face a mask of calm. During a basketball game, Ethan stole the ball from her every chance he got, shoving her hard enough to make her stumble. Caleb laughed each time, his voice carrying across the gym. "Yo, new girl, you even know how to play." Amara kept her movement steady, her eyes focused. Lauren watched from the sidelines, arms crossed, waiting for a crack in Amara's composure. But there was none. If anything, Amara seemed bored, her every move controlled, deliberate. It wasn't submission, it was defiance, and it drove Lauren crazy. By lunch, Lauren was done with subtle games. Amara had just picked up her tray when a hard shove from behind sent her stumbling. Her tray tipped food splattering across the floor, mashed potatoes, green beans, a puddle of milk. The cafeteria froze, the clatter of the tray echoing in the silence. Then the laughter started loud and cruel. Lauren stepped forward, her smirk triumphant. "Oh no," she said, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. Did the poor little new girl drop her lunch? How sad. Emily and Sophia cackled. Ethan leaned against a table, arms crossed, his grin wide. Caleb had his phone out, recording the red light, a silent taunt. Students pulled out their own phones, flashes blinking like vultures circling. Lauren leaned in, her voice low. "What's wrong, gonna cry? Maybe you should run back to Detroit." More laughter, more cameras. Amara stood still, her fists clenched, her breathing steady. Then slowly, she looked up at Lauren and smiled, a small, almost invisible curve of her lips. Lauren's confidence wavered, a chill creeping up her spine. The cafeteria was still laughing, but it didn't feel like a victory anymore. Amara bent down, picked up her tray, and walked to the trash, her movements calm, deliberate. As she passed Lauren, their eyes met again, and that same cold patience flickered in Amara's gaze. The laughter continued, but it was hollow now, tinged with confusion. Lauren's heart pounded. She'd won, hadn't she? So why did it feel like she was losing? That afternoon, a video of the incident hit the school's social media. Caleb had edited it with mocking captions. "Welcome to Lincoln, loser." The clip spread like wildfire, students snickering in the hallways, their phones glowing with Amara's humiliation. Even those who'd seemed neutral before now avoided her, their eyes darting away as she passed. Amara walked through the school like a ghost, the weight of isolation pressing against her chest. She'd been through this before, different schools, same patterns, but it never got easier. In history class, a new face caught her attention. Mia Torres, a quiet girl with glasses and a nervous smile, sat 2 rows over. She'd been at the edge of the cafeteria during the incident, her expression unreadable. Now, as Amara took her seat, Mia glanced at her, offering a small nod. It wasn't much, but it was something. Amara nodded back, unsure what to make of it. Ms. Harper's lecture was interrupted when a note landed on Amara's desk. She unfolded it to find a single word scrawled in sharp letters, "Freak." She glanced around, catching Sophia's smirk. Amara crumpled the note and turned back to her notebook, her jaw tight. Mia's eyes flickered toward her, but she said nothing. That night, Amara sat in her room, the glow of her phone casting shadows on the wall. The video was everywhere, racking up likes and comments. "She's so pathetic. Bet she runs back to Detroit by Friday. Who does she think she is?" She turned the phone off, her hands trembling. The old anger stirred in her chest, the same fire that had burned through her in Detroit. She could still hear the crunch of that boy's jaw, see the blood on her knuckles, feel the shame that had followed. She'd sworn she'd never be that person again. A knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. Marcus leaned against the frame, his expression soft, but searching. "You haven't eaten," he said. "Not hungry," Amara muttered. He stepped inside, sitting on the edge of her bed. "Saw that video." She stiffened, and he held up a hand. "I'm not here to lecture. Just want to know what you're thinking." Amara's throat tightened. "I'm thinking I could end this tomorrow. Walk into that cafeteria, take Lauren down in front of everyone. It'd be over in 10 seconds. She paused, her voice dropping. "But then what? They'd call me a thug, a monster. I'd be that girl again." Marcus nodded, his eyes steady. "You could end it. You're strong enough. But strength isn't just about winning fights. It's about knowing when to fight and when to walk away." He leaned forward. "Those kids, they're not worth your future. But if they push you too far, you do what you have to. Just don't lose yourself in it." Amara looked down at her hands, the scars on her knuckles faint but permanent. "I don't know if I can keep walking away." "Then don't," Marcus said. "But don't let them turn you into someone you're not." The next morning, the school felt different. The whispers were louder, the stares more brazen. Amara walked to her locker, her head high despite the knot in her stomach. A new voice cut through the noise, Kayla Brooks, a wiry girl with a sharp tongue, one of Lauren's crew. She stepped in front of Amara, her eyes blazing. "I know who you are," Kayla said, her voice loud enough to draw attention. "You're the girl who put my cousin in the hospital back in Detroit. You think you can just show up here and act innocent?" Amara froze, her heart lurching. The hallway went quiet, students craning to listen. Lauren, standing nearby, smirked, sensing blood in the water. Amara's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "I'm not that person anymore." Kayla scoffed. "Yeah, tell that to my cousin. He still can't eat solid food." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. "You're not fooling anyone." Amara held her ground, but the weight of Kayla's words hit hard. She'd spent 2 years running from that moment, that mistake. Now it was following her, a shadow she couldn't shake. Lauren's laughter rang out sharp and triumphant. "Oh, this is good," she said. "The new girl's a criminal. Maybe we should call the cops." The crowd murmured, some laughing, others whispering. Amara's chest tightened, but she forced herself to walk away. Her steps measured her face, unreadable. Behind her, Lauren's voice followed. "Run all you want, freak. You're done here." By lunch, the school was a pressure cooker. Amara sat alone, her tray untouched, when Mia Torres approached, hesitating before speaking. "Hey," she said softly. I saw what happened. With Kayla. That wasn't fair." Amara glanced up, wary. "Why do you care?" Mia fidgeted, pushing her glasses up. "Because I know what it's like. Lauren's been on my case since freshman year. She doesn't stop unless you make her." She paused, her voice barely a whisper. "You're stronger than you let on, aren't you?" Amara didn't answer, but something in Mia's eyes, fear mixed with hope, stayed with her. She nodded a silent acknowledgement, and Mia offered a small smile before walking away. That afternoon, Lauren made her move. Word spread fast after school behind the gym. No teachers, no cameras. A showdown. Amara heard the whispers. All day felt the anticipation building like a storm. She wasn't surprised. She'd seen this coming from the moment she stepped off the bus. Lauren didn't understand silence. She thought it was weakness. Amara was done pretending. The final bell rang, and Amara walked to the back of the school, her steps slow but steady. The lot behind the gym was a stretch of cracked pavement, shadowed by the fading afternoon light. Lauren was already there, arms crossed, her smirk a mask of confidence. Emily and Sophia stood at her sides, Kayla a step behind her, eyes burning with personal vengeance. Ethan and Caleb were there too, their presence a silent threat. And behind them, a crowd, at least 30 students' phones, out ready for a spectacle. Amara stopped a few feet away, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her expression unreadable. Lauren tilted her head. "Wow, you actually showed up. I thought you'd keep running." "I wasn't running, Amara," said her voice calm, almost bored. Lauren scoffed. "Please, you didn't even fight back in the cafeteria. You're nothing." She stepped closer, her voice sharp. "You think you can come here, steal my spotlight, act like you're better than me? You're nobody." Amara exhaled, tilting her head slightly. "You think spilling juice is a fight?" The crowd murmured, a few laughs breaking the tension. Lauren's smile twitched. She hated how steady Amara sounded. "Oh, don't worry," she said, her voice saccharine. "This is gonna be real." Amara's eyes locked onto hers, and her next words made the air go still. "I'm warning you, Lauren. You don't want this." Lauren blinked, caught off guard. "Warning me." Ethan and Caleb exchanged glances. Emily and Sophia shifted uncomfortably. Kayla's jaw tightened, her hands balling into fists. Amara's voice was even like she was stating a fact. "Walk away. Last chance." Lauren laughed, but it was forced a crack in her armor. "You're threatening me? That's cute." She hated the way her heart raced, hated that Amara wasn't scared, hated that she was starting to feel like she'd miscalculated. Ethan, sensing her hesitation, stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. "Enough talk," he said, his voice low. "Let's get this over with." Lauren seized the outer smirk, returning. "You heard her, Ethan. She says we don't want this. Show her how wrong she is." Ethan rolled his shoulders, stepping toward Amara. He towered over her, 6 inches taller, built like a linebacker, his grin cocky. "I'll go easy on you," he said mockingly. Amara didn't answer. The crowd leaned in, phones raised, the air thick with anticipation. Ethan swung first, a heavy right hook aimed at her shoulder. It was fast, but Amara was faster. She stepped inside his reach, her movements fluid, almost effortless. Her hand caught his wrist, and in one smooth motion, she twisted, using his momentum to flip him over her shoulder. Ethan hit the pavement with a thud, the air rushing out of his lungs. The crowd gasped, phones shaking in their hands. Amara stepped back, her face unreadable. "I warned you." Ethan coughed, scrambling to his feet, his face red with embarrassment. "Lucky shot," he spat, but his voice wavered. Caleb hesitated, his bravado crumbling, but Kayla's voice cut through. "She's not that good," she shouted, pushing forward. "I'll take her." Kayla charged, her fist aimed at Amara's face. Amara sidestepped, grabbing Kayla's wrist mid-strike and spinning behind her. In a flash, she locked Kayla's arm, forcing her to her knees with a sharp cry. Amara released her, stepping back as Kayla stumbled, clutching her arm, her eyes wide with shock. The crowd was silent now, the air electric. Lauren's pulse pounded in her ears. This wasn't supposed to happen. She opened her mouth to speak, but Ethan's voice boomed first. "Yo guys, get in here." 3 more boys from the football team stepped out from the crowd, their eyes hard, their fists clenched. The odds shifted, and Amara's heart skipped a beat. She could handle 1 or 2, but 4. This was dangerous. The crowd murmured some cheering for Ethan, others whispering in awe. "She's fast," someone said. "No way she takes them all," another replied. Lauren's confidence surged. Numbers were on her side now. Amara was done. The first boy lunged, his punch wild but heavy. Amara ducked, her footwork precise, and swept his legs out from under him. He hit the ground, hard, groaning. The second came at her from the side, but she pivoted, catching his arm and twisting until he yelped, backing off. The third was smarter, feinting left before swinging right. His fist grazed her cheek, drawing a thin line of blood. Amara winced, the sting sharpening her focus. The crowd was roaring now, split between cheers and gasps. Ethan charged again, his pride driving him past reason. Amara met him, head-on, blocking his punch and landing a quick jab to his chest. He staggered, but the third boy grabbed her arm, yanking her back. For a moment she was pinned, the weight of his grip crushing. Lauren's laugh rang out. "Got you now?" Amara's eyes flashed. She twisted free, her movements a blur, and drove her elbow into the boy's side. He doubled over, and she spun, facing Ethan again. Blood trickled down her cheek, but her gaze was steady, unbreakable. "Last chance," she said, her voice low. Ethan roared, throwing a wild punch. Amara caught his arm, twisted, and sent him crashing to the ground again. The crowd fell silent, the only sound Ethan's labored breathing. The other boys backed off, their confidence shattered. Kayla was frozen, her earlier bravado gone. Lauren's smirk was gone, replaced by something new. Fear. Amara stood in the center of the lot, her hands loose at her sides, her chest rising and falling. She looked at Lauren, her voice quiet, but piercing. "You thought this was about power, but you were never strong to begin with." The words hit Lauren like a physical blow, burning through her pride, her control, her everything. The crowd was staring, their phones still recording, but their whispers had changed. They weren't laughing at Amara anymore. They were in awe. Lauren snapped. She lunged her hand, reaching for Amara's hair in a desperate bid to reclaim control. It was a mistake. Amara caught her wrist, midair, her grip like iron, her body still. Lauren froze, her breath catching. Amara turned to face her, and the weight of her gaze was suffocating, steady, unwavering, inescapable. Amara leaned in, her voice a whisper only Lauren could hear. "You don't have any power over me, and you never will." She let go, and Lauren stumbled back, her heart hammering, her world unraveling in front of everyone. Amara didn't wait for a response. She turned and walked away, the crowd parting silently as she passed. The silence wasn't just shock, it was respect. Lauren stood alone, the weight of dozens of eyes pressing down on her. Ethan was still on the ground, his pride in tatters. Caleb's phone had dropped, the recording forgotten. Kayla's anger had dissolved into confusion. Emily and Sophia were quiet, their loyalty wavering. And Lauren, she couldn't breathe. She'd lost everything. The next morning, Lincoln High was different. Lauren walked through the halls, her chin high, her designer bag slung over her shoulder, but the air had shifted. The whispers followed her, not with fear or admiration, but with curiosity and doubt. She'd spent years commanding this school, but now she was the one being watched, judged. Amara's name was on everyone's lips, not hers. In the cafeteria, Lauren sat at her usual table, her food untouched. Emily and Sophia were quieter than usual, their glances nervous. Ethan and Caleb sat nearby, their egos bruised, their silence heavy. No one spoke, because for the first time Lauren wasn't the center of the universe. Across the room, Amara sat alone, eating calmly, unbothered. But something had changed. Students kept glancing her way, some whispering, others hesitating near her table. A few from the basketball team nodded as they passed, a gesture of respect. Even Mia Torres, the quiet girl from history, paused by her table, her voice soft. "Can I sit here?" Amara looked up, surprised but not unwelcoming. "Sure." Mia sat her tray, clattering slightly. "What you did yesterday, it was incredible. I've never seen anyone stand up to Lauren like that." She paused, her voice dropping. "I wish I could be that brave." Amara's expression softened. "You don't have to fight to be brave," she said. "Just keep being you." Mia smiled, and for the first time Amara felt a flicker of connection, a sense that maybe she didn't have to be alone. Lauren watched from her table, her fingers clenched around her fork. She could fix this. She had to. Maybe if she spun the narrative made Amara look dangerous, a thug like Kayla said. Maybe a shadow fell across her table. Amara stood there, her presence calm but commanding. Lauren's breath caught the cafeteria falling silent around them. Amara didn't sit, didn't raise her voice. She just looked at Lauren, her eyes steady. "We're done," she said, simply. Then softer, she added, "You don't have to be this person to be respected." The words hung in the air, a quiet challenge. Lauren's throat tightened, dozens of eyes locked on her, waiting. Amara turned and walked away, leaving Lauren frozen, her world crumbling. For the first time, Lauren wondered if she'd been wrong all along. That afternoon, Amara was called to the gym office. Coach Harris, a former boxer with a weathered face and kind eyes, sat behind his desk. "I saw what happened yesterday," he said, his voice gruff but warm. "You've got skills, kid. Real skills." Amara tensed, expecting a lecture. "I didn't start it," I know, Harris said, leaning forward. "But you finished it. I've been around fighters my whole life. You've got something special, but you're carrying it like a burden." He paused, his eyes searching hers. "Join the martial arts club. Teach those kids how to stand up, not just with their fists, but with their hearts. They need someone like you." Amara hesitated, the weight of his words sinking in. She'd spent so long hiding her strength, afraid of what it could do. But maybe it could be something more. "I'll think about it," she said finally. Harris nodded. "That's all I ask." That night, Lauren sat in her room staring at her reflection in the mirror. The girl looking back wasn't the queen of Lincoln High anymore. She was just Lauren. Her mother's words echoed in her head, "Be the best always," but for the first time they felt hollow. She thought of Amara's words in the cafeteria, the quiet certainty in her voice. "You don't have to be this person." Lauren's hands shook. She didn't know who she was without her crown, but maybe she could find out. Amara stood in the gym the next week, facing a small group of students in the martial arts club. Mia was there, nervous, but determined, along with a few others who'd seen her stand up to Lauren. Coach Harris watched from the sidelines, a faint smile on his face. "Strength isn't about hurting people," Amara said, her voice clear. "It's about protecting what matters. Let's start with the basics." As she demonstrated a simple block, she felt something shift inside her. For the first time, her strength didn't feel like a curse. It felt like a gift. Join us to share stories of courage and compassion. Hit the like and subscribe buttons, and turn on the notification bell to start your day with lessons that inspire.